we go. What a wonderful crowd.
Thank you.
It goes on. Okay, it goes on for like 36 seconds. Like, that's a lot of applause. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to Don't Watch at Night Live, aka the live stream. This is Don't Watch at Night, a spooky little podcast dedicated to Spanish language horror and Latin American horror. I'm your host, Valerie.
And I'm Veronica.
Tell me how you're doing.
I'm tired. I've not been sleeping. I'm probably operating on 2 to 4 hours of sleep every night for the past 2 weeks.
Are you feeling ready? You're as prepared. Tell people what happens for you.
Nothing super major, but I'm taking my group fitness instructor certification exam on Monday.
Yeah.
And so I've been studying for that. It's been a lot. I'm just ready for it to be done. I'm I don't care at this point. I just want it to be done. I don't want to look at this stuff anymore.
Tomorrow we're recording on a Saturday morning. Tomorrow by the time this episode goes to podcast platforms, this will have already happened. But tomorrow I'm participating in the Fiesta Reclamada here in Austin, which sounds cool. It's just going to be like an art fair kind of situation. There's going to be live music and food and artists, things of that nature. So I'm going to be there tabling at that event, which I'm really nervous about. And I get I sign up for these things. My extrovert half of my brain signs up for these things. Yeah, I can do it, no problem. And then on the cusp of it actually happening, I forget why I signed up to do these things at all. I would just rather not. So I'm a little scared, but I'm gonna do it.
What do you have to do?
I'm tabling as an artist. So I'm going to have photographs there, books, things that I've done. And I don't think I generally ever talk about it on the show here, but I do my own little business. I do make soaps and candles and I sell those. And so I table at events like that all the time, selling that stuff. So this is the first time. That's not what this is. This is me selling my work. So I'm nervous about that. It'll be fine. Up top, before we move on to anything, guys, I do want to let you guys know. So this is our live stream that we're doing. It's also the video episode for the month of May for our Patreon people. We also our Patreoners are getting a lot of video content lately because we did our book club episode, which was a video episode for them. Then we immediately did Creepy Cocktail Hour this past week. So if you go and join our Patreon, we have a Creepy Cocktail Hour up there where we discussed vampires, kind of in celebration of the success of films like Sinners and Nosferatu. And then the other thing we want to announce to you guys is just letting you know. So we've got this episode for May. We've got another episode coming in May where it'll be another film. And then in June, Veronica and I go on our little recording break. This is the month that we do every year where we sort of schedule some time to take a break, recoup, be with our families, enjoy a little bit of summer. You're still going to be getting pre-recorded episodes and all of that, but it is our break from the recording studio, so to speak. That's it. Ron, did you have any other announcements?
Can't think of anything. No. That would be no. All right. So this time around this is kind of our foray into horror movies outside the Latinx field. So this time we're taking in a little French film from 1960 called Les Yeux sans Visage. That was my best French I can do, sorry.
Better than what I can do.
That's the best I can do, which in America translates to Eyes Without a Face. It was director Georges Franju and stars Pierre Brasseur, Alida Valle. I don't know. In Spanish, I would say Valle, but I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Juliette Méniel and Edith Scobb, who played the tragic Christiane. Little black and white ditty. So yeah, your initial thoughts, impressions.
I thought it was fun. I love a good old black and white movie. And so I was already kind of in for a treat the minute you hear I don't want to say ominous, but the spooky, kooky music that you hear throughout the film anytime.
I wrote down carnival-esque music.
Yeah. Anytime Louise is on her hunt. So the minute you heard that, I was just like, oh, this is going to be fun. I thought I read somewhere, although I can't find it now, but I think at least unofficially, this was maybe the first real French horror film, or it's at least considered as among one of the first French horror films, even though the director, how do you say his last name? Franju? I don't think he considered it a horror. He considered it more of just a story of torment. I will get to it, but like I know that this at the time that this movie came out, it was somewhat ill received by certain audiences, some audiences. What did you think of it?
I mean, it was okay. Honestly, I was falling asleep. Now, that may not have less to do with the movie and the fact that I'm operating on not a lot of
No
sleep.
sleep, right? Well, and
And
they're
it's
speaking
just,
in these dulcet French. French language is so beautiful
it's
and
very
calming
melodic. It's
and
very
melodic.
melodic. And it's always interesting to me to when you go back and you watch like these older movies, because you can't help but watch them with your modern 2025 brain. So whereas I was reading that this movie people were fainting when they were watching it, and I was like, but where? Like,
Well,
I
yeah.
guess I'm jaded,
Well,
and
but
it
then
was,
we get to the scene that I think is probably quintessentially what set people off.
yeah,
We'll
but
get
even
to
that
it.
I was like, okay.
As for 1960, Ron, that's
Well, I know, but
pretty.
that's what I'm saying. It's hard to watch this without using my modern brain that has seen everything it has seen and experienced everything it has experienced. And
I
it's
think,
kind of like when you hear people talk about, like Mom would talk about when The Exorcist came out and how people were walking out of the cinema, but us watching it now, with all
yeah,
the
I
things we're
think.
accustomed to seeing now, that just seems tame.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think because we have our modern brain that has seen so much, it really made me appreciate that scene more. Specifically because it's like, hell, this was 1960. Franju goes there, and I'm like, good for him. I can see why audiences would have been completely turned off by that, because even by today's standards, it's a graphic scene. So I appreciated that moment, because up until then, yeah, it's kind of like this sleepy little French spooky film, but there's nothing necessarily overtly terrifying about it. And so, yeah, that scene doesn't come till like halfway through, and it's just like, wow, cool for him that they did that they show that, and it's drawn out too. It's not like a fast scene over and done. I did want to point out this movie is celebrating its 65th anniversary. We didn't know that when we chose it, so that's cool that we're celebrating the 65th anniversary of it. I know in the opening, you see Louise driving, hauling essentially what we come to learn is a dead body all by herself,
In a
which
dress, and
in a dress and heels. And I was just like,
because that's what
wow.
we wear when we're dumping a body. We
Well,
dress up.
and like, you know how hard it is to move a body? I mean, there are
No.
times, Ron, do you ever do this? I have had Alex before pretend. I'm like, I want you to just lay on the ground and just pretend like you're passed out. And I'm going to pretend like, what would I do if I needed to like save you from a building? If I had to drag you out by myself. Do you ever do that? Have you ever done that? Am
No.
I am I alone in that? Okay. Well, needless to say, I would not be able to save Alex. I have tried hauling it.
Sorry, Alex.
So it's hard to haul a body. And this woman's just doing it like it's nothing. I don't know if there were any moments from I guess like the opening or first half of the movie, things that stood out to you that you found
The music,
interesting.
the carnival music, I found kind of annoying. I thought it was jarring. But
would you say overall you liked this movie or didn't like this movie?
I mean, it was okay. I wasn't like overwhelmed by it. Watching it, I wasn't thinking, oh, this is.
Because this is a movie that is kind of considered a little bit of a cult classic now. So it's certainly enjoyed more popularity in later years.
It's not something that I would ever like choose to rewatch. So I wasn't like incredibly impressed. And I was very sleepy.
You were very sleepy, yeah.
Even though I was watching it early, I started watching it, I think, around 7, and I was already trying really hard to not to fall asleep. I had to stop 20 minutes in and go take a shower to just kind of revive.
I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. This one would be one that I would rewatch, and I can see why it's
I would classify it more. I mean, I know it falls under the horror big umbrella, but it was kind of. I need to stop saying kind of. It was more.
We both do it. Sort of.
Sort of. In the vein of psychological. Thriller drama.
I think.
I mean, I could definitely see where. I don't know, when was Hitchcock? Was he in the 60s? Like,
so Psycho comes out this same year.
Yeah, in that vein of
film. Yeah. Psycho comes out in 1960 as well. So yeah, I can see that. We have resources for you guys that we always link. One of them is a great essay from Criterion Collection. This movie is part of the Criterion Collection. And they say what is remarkable about the film is not its thematic originality. This is mad scientist, whatever. This is not an unfamiliar story, but the imagery, the atmosphere, the perfect rightness of the story's narrative elements, the face and the mask, the graft and the wound, later on the dogs and the doves. This is part of an excellent essay that we linked for you guys. So the imagery, I would say that, the imagery, particularly where Christiane comes into play, those scenes anytime she's moving across the screen, it's very balletic. I don't know if you felt that way watching her in this role. She's moving like a ballerina phantom on your screen. And as we get to the end scenes, the climactic scenes, even more so. The imagery is even more dramatic. And
you know what she reminded me of? Like a posable doll.
Yeah. I mean, I see that.
Because her arms were always like...
She's moving very... she's moving... Like they're very deliberately held out from the rest of her body. She's floating through the castle, through the mansion. What did you think of the doctor's ultimate fate?
I think when there was about 30 minutes or so left in the movie, and I was watching and I was like, there better be some damn consequences for people. Because at that point in the movie, I was like, I don't know if it's going to happen. So I was satisfied with his end. Because the whole time I was like, what is he doing with these dogs?
Everyone who is watching this live stream or who listens to this episode will have hopefully seen this movie by the time that this rolls out. But do you want to set people up for just give people the premise of this movie? What is he doing with these unsuspecting women he finds?
So he's a doctor that apparently has a clinic like within walking distance of his mansion. Apparently at some point pre the start of the movie, he and his daughter were involved in an accident that at least Christiane, his daughter, blames on him. Her face was pretty much disfigured. So I'm picturing like she went through the windshield and her skin was just peeled off her face. So now he has got it in his mind that he is going to abduct these other women who are of an age of his daughter or to his daughter, have similar features, and he's going to bring them to his mansion, drug them, remove their face, and then graft it onto his daughter. And he has tried this a few times as of the start of the movie, and it's all been failures. And that's where we pick up. That's the first scene of the movie, is Louise, the maid, dumping the latest victim. I guess he's practicing on the dogs. He's got like a room full of kennels with a bunch of different dogs, and I guess he's patching skin from one to the other.
Right. To just sort of see how that's going. And you don't really... I didn't pick up on that till towards the end, where I think you see a specific scene where he's got a different patch of hair on a dog. Because initially I was just like, why do you have all these dogs? Like, why do you need all these dogs? But yeah, he's just like abducting these unassuming women off the streets of Paris and hauling them off for this experiment. And so there is a scene where he goes down to the police station to identify the body that Louise had dumped in the river.
Body.
Right. And he claims it as his daughter. So he's like, this is a way that I can kind of...
Because everyone has just thought that she was missing. She's been missing since the car accident.
They haven't seen her. Right. And so this is a way that I guess he gets to explain that body. You know, he can kind of misidentify it intentionally as his daughter. And so and at that time, mind you, the real father of the woman shows up.
Her name was Simone. Call her by name, Valerie.
Good. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah, good that you picked that up because I didn't. Simone. So Simone's father shows up and is talking to Dr. I don't know how to say his last name. Did you say it and I missed it? The doctor, the mad doctor.
Doctor.
I don't know how to say it.
Genesier. Just call him Dr. G.
Dr. G.
Dr. G.
Our apologies.
All our French people.
I thought you said it beautifully, but I can't replicate that. So Dr. G. Simone's father shows up and he's talking to Dr. G outside of the police department, and he's obviously distraught. I wrote the line down because I was like, asshole says, how odd that I should have to comfort you. You still have some hope. That's what Dr. G tells this father, this distraught father, before he gets in his car and drives away. And I was like, excuse me?
Knowing that he has stolen his daughter's identity.
That you killed his daughter. And yeah, I was just like, yeah.
So now this poor man will never have closure.
He'll never know.
He'll never know what happened to his daughter.
They'll never find her because she's already. So yeah, at that point I was just like, yeah, I no longer feel anything for you, sir, trying to save your daughter. So no, I was ready for consequences as well. What did you think of Christiane's mask?
Well, why can't she wear, like, because it looked
It looked
almost
pretty great.
like,
It was pretty good.
it looked almost like her face. So I'm like, why can't she just wear this out in public?
I was like, it doesn't look that bad, honestly.
I mean, put a little color on it and it wouldn't be so bad.
I did do some research on that because I was like, this is pretty good, actually. In the show notes, we found an article that talks about Edith Scav would have to show up. So the mask was modeled off of her actual face, and that's why it looks so gosh darn close. And so she would have to show up early and sit in the makeup chair and get into this mask and get it on just right. It was really stiff, so she couldn't really speak. She had to take her food through a straw. So it was a very arduous process. But she said, it really kind of helped her performance because it was very isolating being in that mask all day long on set and not really being able to communicate with people. I'd be miserable. And I agree with you. Like when you see it, because she says something to the effect of like, I'm scared to not wear my mask, but I'm scared to have it on as well. And then when you finally see it, I was just like, well, that's not that bad. I could get used to that. That's fine. I did kind of, because we both watched this last night, I do agree with you that I also was tired. And so, yeah, the first half of the film, like I said, it's just this sleepy little spooky movie. And so then when we get to that scene, which we've already talked about, that did get my attention at that point. I was just like, oh, okay, this is different. This is unusual, even for the other horror films of the time, Psycho being the prominent one. Even Psycho doesn't necessarily show incisions. It alludes to stabbing, but you don't actually see that. And so I thought this was kind of impressive that they have this drawn out scene of him taking a scalpel to her face and cutting it and making the incisions.
And actually that victim, whose name was Edith, I believe. Yeah, Edith. I thought she was going to have a more long-lasting role in the movie, but then when they're doing that operation on her, I'm like, well, okay, I guess no one's going to come save her. No one's going to come arrive in the nick of time because we're 30 minutes into this movie.
And so she survives the operation, which I was surprised by. She survives briefly until she. Do you think she threw herself off the? Because she's the one who falls from the window. Or do you think somebody pushed her?
That was my question. And actually, I only had two options. You just did a third one. I was wondering, I was going to ask you, do you think she was just trying to escape and lost her footing and fell? Or did someone push her out the window? And then you added the third one. I don't think she had time to see, like she didn't see her face. I don't think she was trying to kill herself. So I think probably the first one. I think maybe she was just trying to escape and accidentally fell out the window. That sounds more plausible because we never really see any evidence. Because these women are all just walking around in dresses, like and heels. She might have had more success if she had had pants trying to get out of the upper floor window.
Ditch the heels, ma'am. But
and it was a pencil skirt at that, right? So it didn't have a lot of
the 1960s.
Death by pencil skirt.
That was the other little thing that I noticed in this movie. The fashions of the 1960s were, I appreciate that fashion. Not so great for escaping a mad scientist mansion, but
don't wear a pencil skirt when you're trying to abscond out a window.
Yeah. To what Ronnie said earlier, what we looked at online is just that at the time that this movie came out, it's got to be that scene that kind of just drove some people away from the movie entirely. There were reports of at the Edinburgh Film Festival. I said that all wrong. I apologize. But at that festival, there were reports of people fainting. So very provocative for its time. Hi guys, dropping in real quick to let you know, Don't Watch at Night is getting ready to turn 2 this summer. And that's so exciting. It's been a wonderful journey getting to do this podcast with Veronica. For those of you who don't know, we are actual sisters. We started this podcast with a goal in mind of lifting up Spanish language horror and Latin American horror because there are so many rich, wonderful stories out there in that realm. Though we do cover all kinds of other horror because it takes a village. But what we are asking you now as we approach year 2 is to drop us a comment or review and let us know how we're doing. If you listen over on Spotify Did you know you can leave comments on episodes and give your feedback? If you're listening over on Apple, you can drop us a rate and review. It's a great way to let us know how we're doing and to also share the show with other potential listeners out there who find us by way of your reviews. So do us a favor, if you like what you've been listening to so far, and if you want to hear more, give us a comment, give us a rate, a review, give us a follow, and share us with other spooky little weirdos out there in your life, okay? We love you. Thanks. Did you learn, Ron, in the research, did you learn that your Billy Idol song is in fact...
I told you. I mean, I did not know that, but...
It was in fact about this movie.
See? So now you can use it when you're promoting on the social medias.
So honestly, I didn't realize this until it was pointed out to me. And now, as I tell you this, tell me if like you hear it now. So the song features background vocals by Idol's then girlfriend. Her name was Perry Lister. And she's singing in the chorus the phrase, it's the French title of this film. Listen to the chorus in the song now, and now you can hear it, can't you? I can't say. Can you say the French title of this film? Do you want to give a go with that?
Les Yeux sans Visage.
Yeah. So Les Yeux sans Visage. Eyes without a face. So yeah. Once that was pointed out to me, I was like, oh yeah, I hear it now. I don't think I ever really paid attention to what the chorus of that song says. So.
Well, I never paid attention to what the background singer was singing.
This movie's been very inspirational for all kinds of filmmakers. John Carpenter, Pedro Almodovar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've The Skin, what is it? The Skin We're In?
The Skin I Live In or something?
The Skin I Live In? That movie's come up a bunch. It's Antonio Banderas, by the way. That movie's come up a bunch. I've never seen it because I think, I think this movie kind of skirts the edge of body horror, and I suspect The Skin I Live In is going to be more fully into like what we would consider these days to be body horror. I think body horror, Veronica and I generally get pretty scared by. But yeah, so John Carpenter, Almodovar, it's influenced a lot of really cool movies. This movie makes a Screen Rant list of 10 classic horror movies of the black and white film era. And the article makes a really interesting point because it does really talk about how generally when we talk about when we talk about old horror movies or classic horror movies, we're generally pulling from like the 70s and 80s. And so a lot of people overlook those pioneering films of the black and white era. And so there's a list of 10, and it's on the list of 10. What else is on there? Cat People from, I want to say the 60s. I could be wrong. Nosferatu, the old one, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Diabolique, Psycho, of course. For anyone who cares, the number one, this was number 2 on that list. And number 1 on that list is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which...
I was going to say I've seen all those except that one.
Yeah. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I want to say I've heard of it. I mean, I've heard of it, but I've not seen it. I've heard of Cat People as well. So the end scene... The final scene when Christiane is letting the doves out and then she's wandering, again, very balletic, wandering out into the woods with the doves. And that whole scene, I want to recreate that. I was inspired. I was like, I need to capture this in a photo if I can. I just need a model. You can be my model, Veronica. I'm going to put a white mask on you.
I'm not cutting my hair short.
What do you think becomes of her?
Well, I don't know, because up until that point, she was like, the last time she had any extended dialogue, she was begging Louise to kill her. Because she's pretty much a prisoner in her own home. She can't, and now everybody thinks she's dead. So
yes. Yeah.
So she's pretty much, she had been engaged to this doctor that works with her father, and she tries to call him a couple of times. She just dials, but she doesn't really say anything until the second call. But so she's just locked up in this house, and she questions why her father even saved her, and she also questions, he didn't just let her die.
Right. And she also questions his motivations, rightly so. She's like, this isn't about him caring about me. He's just wanting to do this for his own sense of vanity and to prove that he can and all of that.
Actually, I did write that line when she's telling Louise, and she's talking about how this isn't about her, it's about him. And then she says, a human guinea pig, what a godsend for him.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
he's not doing this out of guilt. It's just his way to do something scientific, something, a medical breakthrough that, like you said, is just towards his vanity.
Yeah.
Which kind of the whole movie, like you would think, okay, Christiane, obviously we see a painting of her hanging on the wall. She was beautiful. And when we see her, I was actually wondering, like, are we ever going to see her face without, because she's always turning away. She's always like
face down.
Face first, face down into the ground or on her bed. So I was like, are we ever going to see her actual face without the mask? And we do. But I was like, okay, is she going along with this also for her own vanity? Does anybody in this movie have any empathy for the girls
Moral
that they're
compass?
just,
Yeah.
that they're just taking off the ground? Like, you're like, this doctor's willing to disfigure another innocent girl just to fix his daughter's face. Maybe he would have felt bad if he was doing it for his daughter's sake, more so than his own ego.
Right. To the thing you just said about the one frame where we do get a look at what she looks like underneath the mask. Again, this is another way in which you really have well-executed camera work and well-executed scenes, because it pulls out of focus almost immediately as she's backing away and kind of it fading to black. So it's really effectively done where you see just enough creeps you out, but not enough that you're able to study it and critique it and, perhaps see that maybe it's only as good as the time period, the makeup effects. So really well done. I thought that was well shot.
I also liked when, like, after the doctor has transplanted poor Edith's face onto her skin onto Christiane, she looks normal and beautiful for a little while, but then they do the I don't know, what do you call it, those time-lapse photos of
like documenting
her body rejecting the graft, and it's just kind of rotting on her face. And
that was cool too.
I like that.
Yeah. So Louise, you get the sense from the movie, Louise is a former patient of his too. He's done some sort of skin surgical work on her as well. What do you think the extent of that is? Do you think that she had a full face transplant and he's just never been able to duplicate it?
No, because Christiane, what does she say? She says something to Louise about it wasn't as drastic and it wasn't as big on as big a scale. Whatever small scar she has on her neck, she hides it by wearing those chokers, which I could never do. I hate wearing anything tight around my neck.
Yeah. Anything that taps the collarbone, I get bothered. I'm like, no. Even turtlenecks. That scene, so you depicted it earlier or talked about it earlier when you were talking about Christiane coming out of the surgery, briefly enjoying this beautiful face. And so they're sitting at the dinner table together, the doctor, Louise, Christiane, and he, it's just like the symbolism of it, this mad scientist dude flanked on both sides by these almost wax-like women. Like they're both lovely, almost to the point of like there's something kind of plastic about them. There's something almost surreal about their appearance, which I think was intentional. I mean, I think that was deliberate to sort of just show this guy surrounded by his creations, and they look not human almost. I thought it was pretty cool. I was, like I said, I was inspired by Christiane's outfit. I want to recreate. I've heard
she was
people
always
say
wearing
this before.
these voluminous, like, bell-shaped
gowns,
like dresses, gowns, robes, whatever they were,
house dresses of the day.
And you could tell she was like bird thin.
Yeah, I read that those gowns were designed by Givenchy. So I mean, they're very beautiful, elaborate house coats. But I've heard people say this before, that this is a really cool Halloween costume to pull off. And it would be. It's not something I can wear in my neighborhood. People would get freaked out. But if anybody ever invites me to like a Halloween party for grown-ups, I would pull out this costume.
You need a short hair wig.
I know. Why was that a style? I don't get it. I don't understand why that was popular in the 60s. It's not flattering on anybody. Honestly, like, it's just not a good cut. I don't understand that part of 60s
Well, the girl's
fashion.
like cooped up at home. It's not like she doesn't have a reason to do her hair.
Right. Were there any moments that kind of stuck out to you as deliberately humorous? And
I don't know that I found any moments humorous. Did you?
There were certain ways that the detectives delivered stuff, that delivered lines that kind of struck me as funny. When we do get that girl who they plant as like not a decoy, but
Paulette.
Paulette. She was funny. If
Well, I'm like,
unintentionally funny, she was funny.
okay, Mr. Police people, what was your plan? Like
Yeah.
you sent her in here undercover, for lack of a better word, and then like you don't send anyone to check up on her. You don't like you just like what was the plan here? I don't know that they had a plan
Right.
for
Well,
how
and
this was going to go.
yeah, I assumed that they were putting her in there to see if the doctor would take her. And then, so then when they're told that, oh, she went home, then they don't question it. They're just like, okay, well, our work is done. And it's just like,
Yeah,
if she's no longer in the hospital, like maybe
and she
follow
didn't
up
show up at
and
home.
make
Yeah,
sure that she's home.
and you're just going to take his word for it. But yeah, so that was a cockamamie plan. There was
Yeah.
no plan, basically.
Yeah. There was no plan. I had known what happens in this movie long before I had seen it. So I knew that there was a fiance, and I knew that he has reason to believe she's still alive. And so he's trying to find her. And I guess I assumed that at some point he and Christiane were going to have a scene together. And so I was a little surprised at how little of a role he has as the heartbroken fiance. I was expecting there
See, I
to
knew
be more
nothing
interaction.
about the movie as usual. I kind of went in
Yeah.
not knowing what was going to happen. So basically, the horror, the monster, is the man, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Man is the monster again. Because really, when you think about it, just the coldness of Louise goes out, like as you said before, she hunts, she
Yeah.
selects a poor innocent girl that resembles, has the blue eyes, matches Christiane. She intentionally goes up to them, seeks them out, establishes a connection with them, some rapport with them, gets them to trust her, brings them back to the house. So it's just the coldness of it. It's like, does nobody have any feeling for human life in this movie? Clearly not
Yeah.
Louise and the doctor.
Yeah, it
But
feels very clinical. I had kind of anticipated that Louise was going to be the
yeah,
character that is like somewhat conflicted about what they're doing, because that
'cause
would
she has
seem
that
logical.
she has that little brief moment at
Yeah.
the fake funeral for Christiane, which is really poor Simone. But then it doesn't really ever go anywhere.
She's fully committed to and I think like she justifies it later in the film by saying, I owe him my face. I owe him, like she's loyal to him because he saved her face or what have you, which is stupid. But I kind of assumed that was his wife or something, or she certainly, it feels like she certainly wants to be, but I think she's just like his secretary. She's listed as like his secretary or something. Quite the word for a secretary.
Now, when the movie first started and we have that first scene of her driving, I immediately thought, okay, this actress looks familiar, but I couldn't place it. But then the minute she started speaking, I was like, aha, there's a movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It doesn't come out like on AMC or any of the classic movie channels that often, but sometimes around Christmas. I think it's called The Miracle of the Bells. It's a much younger. She was much younger in that movie, and it stars a very young Frank Sinatra. I'm blanking on the actor's name, but the guy that used to play the dad on that old show, My Three Sons, Fred McMurray, something like that. Because her speaking is it's very distinct. Because I think she's actually an Italian actress, if I'm not mistaken. And she just went by her last name at that point, Valli, Valli. I may be mispronouncing that. But yeah, as soon as she started speaking, I was like, it took me right back to that movie. So that was cool.
I haven't seen it, no. The Miracle of the Bells. What is it about? Is it?
She plays like an understudy, like she's an actress, but she's like an understudy, and something happens to like give her a big break to be the star in this movie. But then she gets like, I think it was, what was it? Tuberculosis. She's sick. But she's just such a good person and light, so she just inspires everybody around her. I think at that point, who was the big movie mogul? Is it Selznick? I think, yeah, Selznick brought her in because he thought she was the next Ingrid Bergman. She was like a beautiful woman. If you think she was beautiful in this movie, you should see her when she was like in her prime. But yeah, her voice was it's very super distinct.
Oh, okay.
The minute she started talking, I was like, that's who that is.
That's cool. Edith Scobb, what did she go on to do after this? Because she delivers a great performance in this film. Just passed away in 2019, so she lived a long time. She looks familiar. Like you look at her as an older woman, she looks very familiar.
Well, a lot of French movies that I would
A lot of French
seen.
movies. But I feel like her face is so familiar to me. But I guess not. There's nothing here that I've seen. There's some. We didn't get to watch these guys ahead of this, but there are some. If you get like the Criterion DVD set or what have you, she's part of some documentaries that came out years after this film, talking about this film and talking about Franju. He had some similarities to Hitchcock in terms of his directorial style, not nearly as I think dysfunctional as Hitchcock is reported to have been. It does seem like he, at the time that this movie comes out, and it's kind of panned by critics, and there are people, because I think he was a very respected and notable director, and there were critics who were like essentially saying, I don't know why Franju would choose to piddle around in this frivolous genre, and even though he said, he'd never really intended this to be a horror film per se, it was just more of a disturbing story of pain and torment. He did say that he hoped the genre would be taken more seriously. So I think he was efforting to maybe produce some kind of elevated horror, what we would call elevated horror now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say about it, like any other scenes that stood out to you or moments. When the dogs tear him apart, is that his eye exposed? I feel like we get a shot of just like his eye and like his face is ripped away. Ironically, they rip away his face.
Yeah, it was a poetic ending for him.
It was very poetic.
And I was just more curious, like, what is Christiane? She wandering into the forest? Is she gonna throw herself in the river? Like, what is her plan?
Yeah. You got no
she
money.
She stabs Louise in the neck and kills her. So,
which I thought, what it was like, but
she
would
has
you
committed
die?
murder now.
She has, but part of me was just like, but would you die? Like, it's just a little scalpel. I don't feel like you'd die.
Well, it depends if she hit the
maybe like yeah,
that she would bleed out. But
maybe so. I was just like, I don't know, man. I thought that it wasn't funny, but when Louise slumps to the ground and then like her head immediately drops like that, I was just like, that's dramatic.
I was like, it's gonna fall off. Maybe he had sewed her head back on. That's what I was thinking when she was gonna show her scar. I thought, we're gonna discover that he like sewed her whole head back on her neck.
And Paulette does escape. So in that moment, Paulette does just like beeline it for the door, and she gets away. So good for her. She survives.
Also in a pencil skirt.
Yeah,
I know there were pants in the 60s because Mary Tyler Moore wore them on the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah, dude. Audrey Hepburn.
Pedal pushers. They were around. Wear some pedal pushers, people. Increase your odds of survival. Key
things that I thought were so funny. His clinic, the mansion, is, I guess, considered like suburbs of Paris. So Paris is, the big city. And then this is happening out in a more secluded area. In every instance, maybe not in every instance, but certainly with Paulette, where we see the carnival music come up because Louise is driving up in her little rinky-dinky car and she picks up Paulette off the street and just like, don't be getting in cars on the middle of a wooded area at night. Yeah. This is a bad idea. But yeah, I was just like, that's like a little beep beep car. Yeah. Interesting film. And it does make me more curious to see Almodovar's The Skin I Live In Now, even though I think that would be far more scary. A little bit scary and creeped out.
That'd be interesting. I've seen a couple of Almodovar films, and they were both, from what I can remember, a little odd.
Ron, I couldn't get like the vibe off of if you want me to just pick the book or what, because I do have a book in mind. If you're open to it for our next book club pick.
Of the two, that just sounds so heavy.
Well, Salt Bones isn't out yet. I was thinking it was already out. It doesn't come out till this summer, so that's off the table. Hurricane Season was the other one that I had pitched to Ronnie, and I do think that maybe that would be kind of heavy for us right now. So I was actually going to take that off the table. I was going to introduce the idea of Jawbone by Mónica Ojeda because it's more horror fiction, psychological. Maybe more in keeping with like this, kind of keeping the themes of what we seem to be going towards this May. And that one came out in like 2018, I want to say. So it's been out a while.
Yeah, whenever.
Other than just seeing it pop up on different book community online pages, I know very little about it. So I'm excited to give that one a read. I think maybe we can go ahead and announce that as our next book club pick. at least the cover is giving off very interesting body horror vibes. And so I don't know if that will come to pass. I've not read it, but if you guys have read it, definitely let us know. We can always start a new community chat over on our Patreon. If you join our Patreon, guys, you will see, hopefully, if you've been exploring our page, there are community chats that Patreon lets us set up now. So we have a community chat going for book club suggestions, movie suggestions. I don't know if we have one for book club suggestions, but we do have one for movie suggestions. We will start up a new chat for this book club pick, and it can be where we can go to discuss stuff, keeping in mind, try not to drop any major spoilers in the chat because we don't want to, everyone's reading at different paces. So we'll make that our next book. There will be a book club episode coming probably I'll have to take a look. I don't remember if we do a book club episode in July or August, but plenty of time for you to get the book read. It'll be our summer reading. Ron, was there anything, are you coming to the table with any monthly recommendations? I've got one. I may have two.
Well, I have one, which is pretty much everywhere, so it's nothing that no little obscure thing that I'm pulling out, but Sinners. We went and saw Sinners 2 weeks ago. Very good movie. Actually, we need to go see it again because at the beginning, right when the movie was starting, Robert was coming back with like my nachos and his pizza, whatever. One of our kids actually wanted to go with us, so child number 3. He couldn't find his cell phone. So he's like looking all over the seat for his cell phone, and then he's like back and forth to the lobby to see if he left it. So like the first, I'd say 10 minutes of the movie, I'm focused on
You're distracted. Yeah.
his issue. So I missed, it opens with somebody narrating something, and I totally missed what that was about. So very good movie, but definitely want to see it again. There are 2 post-credit scenes. We left after the first one because we didn't know there was a second one. So.
Yeah. I've been seeing that tip from people online to stay to the end. My recommendation is kind of related to that. Actually, and I have 2, and only one of them is listed in the resources that Patreon people got ahead of this recording, because the other one I found like just yesterday. So I will update I'll get this other resource out to you guys as well. But the first one is just this LA Times opinion story, real quick, short, that's called, whenever we're doing stuff with like a live stream or something and I have to turn to my computer, it's very jarring. The name of the story is from the LA Times, Against Vampires or Tyrants, Truth is the Essential Weapon by LZ Granderson. And it's just really cool because I think it's a short read. It touches on things that Ronnie and I have talked about before, with the way we use horror to hold up a lens to current goings on in society. And so there's a lot of ways in which it's always about people trying to convey a truth about the evil, about the monster, and running into a society or a community that is unwilling to believe them. It's all, vampires, just like so many other sinister characters, both in life and on film, rely on the ability to lull us into misinformation, control us with lies, falsehoods. They are really banking on nobody believing, the marginalized communities that are trying to speak out, nobody wanting to believe truth. He kind of ends the article reflecting on the need not only for people to continue to speak truth to power, but to also be more willing to believe what our eyes and ears are telling us. It's a good, interesting read. And then the other one that I will link for you guys is a piece out of The Atlantic written by Adam Sewer, who's a favorite writer of mine, just talking about one of the horrors of Sinners being the Jim Crow economy and the near impossibility of trying to pull yourself out of poverty at that particular time. So fun reads. Maybe not fun, but good reads. Yeah. So we'll read Jawbone by Mónica Ojeda, go see Sinners, sign up for our Patreon, catch up on Creepy Cocktail Hour.
So I wrote down the book, but I know I'm going to end up texting you at some point saying, what's the book we're reading again?
Before we sign off, Veronica, our friend Perla, pointed out, are you familiar with Hoopla?
I've heard of it. I don't know that I've ever used it.
Okay. I went because she was saying that Suspiria, the 1977 film, is available there. And so I went and checked it out. You should be able to gain access with just your library card. And my library is listed. So I have not signed up yet. I'm going to see if I can. But if we can, hoopladigital.com, if you can get access to that, it's free with your library cards. I know Veronica has multiple cards. Then we should be able to watch it. So tentatively, we're saying that our next film for May would be Suspiria 1977, which I think is also of the body horror realm. Certainly the reboot is. I don't know how in-depth the 1977 film is. So prepare yourself, Veronica. May is body horror month, apparently. But yeah, we're going to tentatively say that that's what the next film is. And then if for some reason we can't access it through Hoopla like we hope, then we'll have to pivot and pick something else. I'm excited.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.
And watching.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Don't Watch at Night is a Nest production hosted by me, Veronica, and Valerie. Editing by Valerie. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Don't Watch at Night every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.